So dear friends, this Sunday we are in 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time, and it is only 3 weeks away before we conclude our calendar liturgy or liturgical calendar with the celebration of the Lord Jesus Christ, King of the universe, and then afterwards we enter Advent season. The interesting part is only 3 weeks away, and the reflection of our reflection today is very intense, especially how Jesus performed a ministry, healing ministry at this point, especially. So, this Sunday, our gospel account tells us the story of Bartimaeus, a blind man whose vision was restored by Jesus. Now, just for your information, the healing ministry of Jesus that is recorded in the gospel today apparently is the last incident that happened on his journey to Jerusalem. And there is a reason why Jesus, on the way to Jerusalem, the reason is why is going to Jerusalem is to observe the feast of Passover, and where he is to meet his fate on the cross of Calvary. So on the way to Jerusalem, Jesus knows what is going to happen with him. But the interesting part here is he still have a time to restore the vision of Bartimaeus, and this shows us where Jesus' priorities to the truly happen to the needy. The starting point of our reflection today is the situations in which there were a lot of people on the road as they were leaving Jericho for Jerusalem. That means Jesus was not by himself, neither with only his disciple, but also many people around him, because the destination is to Jerusalem. So the question is, why it is in Jericho that this miracle happened? First of all, Jericho has a significant role in the history of Israel. Jericho is one of the world's oldest continuously occupied city until today. So even when Jesus was alive until today, Jericho has a significant role over there. So it was well known also as the oasis city where people would come to trade their agricultural products, because Jericho just only close to the river, the Jordan River. If you are wondering where is Jericho right now, it is in the West Bank of Palestine. So it is very interesting also that in the history of Israel, Jericho was the gate city where Israelites came into the promised land after several years in the desert from Egypt, and then eventually they reached the promised land, and this is the city where the Israelites came through the promised land. And finally, Jericho is the home of many priests and Levites when Jesus was alive. So if you're wondering the occupied city, it was Jericho, and Jericho is the place where many priests and Levites, people who has a role in the city and the temple. So that's why Jericho is very significant in the history of Jesus' ministry here. Now, in the Jericho, Jesus encountered Bartimaeus, the blind man who asking for vision restorations. In Aramaic, that is a language similar to Hebrew and the common language of Palestinian Jews in the time of Jesus, the name Bartimaeus has a meaning, by the way. We cannot ignore it. The name of Bartimaeus has a meaning. Bar means the son of. Timaeus, that's the father, the son of Timaeus. But Timaeus itself has also a meaning that means honor. So Bartimaeus means the son of honor. Now, the interesting part here into this gospel, in one hand, the name of Bartimaeus signifies respect, honor, or someone who is regarded honorably. But in the other hand, as a blind man who begged money on the street, in fact, Bartimaeus lives on the margin society. So the name represents man of honor or the son of honor, but he lives on the street. So it is a contrast there. So he is a symbol who is excluded from the society and has no dignity. And that's the reason of why someone who is excluded from the society, they lives in the peripheries, like Bartimaeus. So this can be seen in the gospel today. He was sitting on the roadside and begging. On hearing that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, son of David, have pity on me. Meaning to say that Bartimaeus encountered Jesus on the street, not in the place of honor. Now, from this point, at least we can see that there is significant contrast reality between the life and the meaning of his name, the Son of Honor. Now, what we can learn from today's gospel is that there are a restoration of human dignity of a blind man who is disregarded in the society, and also there is a faith restoration in order to see the meaning of life itself. How can we see this one? Okay, let us go back to the story of Bartimaeus. We notice prior to the healing ministry of Bartimaeus, Jesus asked him, so what do you want me to do for you? This is very simple questions from Jesus. What do you want me to do for you? And then, if you remember the gospel last Sunday, how many of you still remember the gospel last Sunday? None? Okay. The gospel last Sunday, there was a tension between John and James. John asked Jesus, Master, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you. And Jesus said also in reply, what do you want me to do for you? So the same questions, last Sunday and this Sunday, especially the gospel. If you pay attention, you can look back at the gospel last Sunday. The gospel last Sunday and the same questions. What do you want me to do for you? So grant us in your glory, we may sit one at your right hand and the other at your left. So that's the response of John and James, right? But now we can see today in the gospel how the response of Bartimaeus. What do you want me to do for you? I want to see. So James and John in the gospel last Sunday responded by asking for places of honor. Again, we are talking a place of honor here at Jesus, especially at the right and the left hand, where they would be seen and viewed, where ordinary people would have looked at them. So unlike James and John, in today's gospel, the response of Bartimaeus is completely different. He said, Master, I want to see. So if you look at the gospel last Sunday and look at the gospel today, there is a significant difference here. In one hand, Bartimaeus asking, I want to see. That's the only thing that he wants. But meanwhile, the gospel last Sunday, John and James asking a place of honor. So, Bartimaeus did not ask for a place of honor in the gospel today. He did not ask not to be seen, but to see. Not for honor, but for vision. Not as to be superior to ordinary people, but to become ordinary himself. Not to rule over others, but to join them in their experience of normal life. This is what I said earlier in the meaning of today's gospel, that the gospel is the restoration of human dignity of a blind man who is disregarded in the society. And also, it is about faith restoration in order to see the meaning of life itself. And finally, dear friends, there is one thing that we need to ask ourselves, given the figure of his faith. It seems possible that Bartimaeus will be a better than the other disciple, especially John and James, who asking a place of honor. And today we can learn Bartimaeus, the son of honor, he did not ask a place of honor, rather to be humble himself. So that's the point of what we can learn from the gospel today. And at this point, I just want to invite you to reflect how our journey in life, do we ask a place of honor? Do we want to be regarded by a society, other people around us to be someone who has really significant role in our life? Or do we need to follow the example of Bartimaeus, a son of honor who is disregarded by the society and asking a place to be humble?